Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And wow, we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. Last night's council meeting, going back to the school committee meeting, and it was quite the night for the people to see the real government in Fall River.
Dictator representation, as I said it.
Yep, I have to start with your presentation on dictatorship of Coogan. That school committee meeting was an absolute disgrace.
It was abysmal. Absolutely
It,
abysmal.
it was a disgrace. The people of Fall River have finally found and seen in action. Please, if you haven't watched the school committee meeting, go to the school committee meeting and watch it because you're seeing the real Paul Coogan.
He was
You're seeing
acting like a petulant child. He was acting like a petulant child.
No, he actually was. That's exactly what you called him, like a dictator. He was acting like a petulant Joe Stalin
Yeah,
or Adolf Hitler. That's what he was acting like.
yeah.
Because he showed we've been talking about that on the show for years about the real Paul Coogan. We have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in that office because he plays Mr. Nice Guy. I'm a great guy. I gave $20 to the homeless guy. I gave this out of my pocket. But then he tells you, go jump in a Taunton River. You don't like it. You don't own a house. Shut up. You can't talk. You don't have bullet holes in your house. You jump out of the car and yell at a woman collecting money for a kid's dance thing. He's a bully. He's a closet bully, and he bullies the weaker people. He doesn't bully anybody that he knows will stand up to him.
Doesn't Billy Chip Camaro?
Well, he can try. He's always invited. I mean, he knows. I've known him for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, I think I saw him in his only fight. He was rolling around the tennis court with Bruce Hall, and it wasn't a very, very effective fight. But he's a bully. He's got total control of these yo-yos over on the school committee, and that was outrageous. Smang, you don't. He's telling people who are appropriating money they can't look at the appropriations. Shut up and vote.
Contract. And you can't look at the contract.
Can't look at the contract, but you can look at you have to look at the contract. Number one, let's start at the top. They have a fiduciary legal obligation. They swore an oath to the Constitution. They were elected. That appropriating body has a fiduciary responsibility to look at things and represent the people. So number one, he has to show them that under that particular Constitution of the of the state of Massachusetts, and the definition, and you can look it up in Black's Law Dictionary or any other law dictionary. The definition of a fiduciary. It says your sole and exclusive loyalty is to the people who you represent, which is the people of Fall River, your clients. Then we go to Chapter 150E, Section 7. Therein lies the rub, because people are going to go, wait a minute. Nah. It's complicated. 150E talks about after the settlement of a contract that they have 30 days to accept or reject the appropriate legislative body, which will be the school committee in this case. But you read the whole law, and that's the way they'll try to get out of it. It says, the provisions of the preceding two sections shall not apply to agreements reached by school committees in cities and towns in which provisions of 34 of Chapter 71 are operative. So they'll say, well, so we don't have to, but you still have to show it to them. But then you go to Chapter 71:34. It says in that chapter that this is the net school spending sections about if they, and you have to see if they adopted them, because it said if they have cities in which provisions are operative, and I believe they are operative in this city, obviously. So then you go to that section and it says The superintendent of schools in any city may address the local appropriating authority, that's the school committee, on any action that is recommended by the school committee, notwithstanding, etc. And then it goes down to talk about they can make non-binding monetary recommendations to increase or decrease certain items, allocating such appropriations. So you explain to me, CJ, that if they have the right to make recommendations, even though in fact they are non-binding, how can you do that without looking at the document?
That's right. That's right.
How can you do that without looking at the document?
And Colin Dyer said, he says, I don't think we should be voting on this without seeing the contract. And that's when Paul got ballistic. He says, what do you need to see it for? You're going to vote no anyhow. Doesn't matter what he's going to vote. You don't know what he's going to vote. He was exercising his authority.
Well, he was exercising. Yeah, he was exercising his total fascism. You're right. You're right. On that comment, that's dead on. It was shameful. That is a really, really accurate statement. You know, these people they just amaze me. It showed his side. He is a dictatorial, thug. He doesn't want anybody to look into things because he's given all his friends pay raises. He's blowing money. They're going crazy in this city with money while the people are dying with all the tax increases and up throughout the country, but in this city more so. And this guy in that meeting, it was shameful and appalling to watch him tell elected officials who by their sworn duty have to be answerable to us, not giving them the information they need to do their job. That's illegal. What pains me is, where are these people? Why are not these people? Why is the school union, teachers union, not filing a prohibited practice? They're bargaining in the public. That is a prohibited practice under 150E, Section 10, and a few other sections. I know. I filed a whole slew of prohibited practices against the city and won them all. You can't bargain. You can't write letters after JLMC, even if he was told that after he did it. He just ignores everything. He just grabs the gavel and starts saying, shut up. You're going to spend this money on exactly what I wanted to spend it on, and you have no input, and the citizens of Fall River have no input. This is nuts. And I blame, and Kevin Aguirre and Colin Dyers did speak up, but they got to push this farther. They've got to push this and appeal and file the necessary paperwork to get the rights that they're guaranteed. You cannot appropriate money. It's writing a blank check. Coogan wants a blank check. Well, I'm giving out pay raises. Well, let's look at them. No. Shut up and sign the check. I'll fill it in later. This is so illegal. And nobody's doing anything about it. You know, the problem, these unions have gotten they've moved off from the old days when Billy Kayla was fighting for pay raises. Jerry Fallon. I was on when the school department struck, even though it was illegal. They had a strike. I fought. We didn't kiss political butt to get pay raises. We went out there and we fought for them. And we demonstrated. We demonstrated, we picketed, we filed prohibited practices, we went to the JLMC. We forced these bums to live by the law. And if we didn't deserve it, we wouldn't ask for it. The school teachers in this city are the lowest paid in the area. and they got the toughest job and the most difficult environment to work in. Coogan's giving everybody else over there pay raises. The guy that said, there's another one, school department. I mean, it's insane. You start talking about the school department, you just can't stop. It's like North Korea. But now we saw it on live TV. Pacheco gets a pay raise, and when they ask him how much the contract to mitigate the mold is, he says, I don't know. I don't have it with me. You can't see it. I don't care how much it's going to cost. He said that. It's irrelevant, basically, because it's got to be done. You're right. It's got to be done. But if somebody's going to work on my car, I'm going to go to a mechanic, and if I don't like the price, I'm going to go shop around. How can we be giving out a contract without bids to see if we can at least save some money for the taxes? These people don't care. This is nuts. Absolutely crazy. This guy has got to go. I mean, he's pulled a Joe Biden. Biden wrecked the economy in 3.5 years.
And so has Paul.
And Paul's wrecked the city. I mean, this is it. I can't look. I've been doing this fundamentally my whole adult life. I've been dealing with collective bargaining, with all these issues in the public sector where there are very, very specific laws and rules, and I'm pretty familiar with them. I've used them. It baffles me why these people, they've gone too long getting it by kissing up. You got to get back to being representatives of the membership. You got to file a prohibited practice. And Colin and Kevin have to do more than just complain at the meeting. If you want some help, I can recommend a great labor lawyer. If you want some advice, feel free to call me. What he's doing is wrong. It's illegal. You will win. They will force this guy. But this guy was blatant. He didn't care. Shut up. My way or the highway. Give me the blank check. Get out of the room. The rest of you bobbleheads can just bobble your head. And then what did somebody tell me? You saw the meeting, CJ.
Yeah.
Correct me if this characterization was wrong, but they were voting on a contract or something like that, and Shelley Pereira wasn't even in the room.
That's right.
And then she walked into the meeting, and she had no idea what they were voting on. And said, "Oh, we're voting on a contract." Well, I vote yes.
Yeah, exactly.
This is your school committee representing your tax dollars, and the expenditure is your tax dollar. I don't know what you're voting on, but if Paul says it's okay,
it's okay.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, we can't do this anymore. People in this city, we're getting killed, and this guy is spending money like a drunken sailor, except he's not spending his own money, he's spending ours. So with that, CJ, you watched that meeting. Come on, give us your spin.
Well, the thing is we got to stop electing these career politicians. Okay? What we need is to elect somebody who's an everyday Joe. A guy who puts his pants on one leg at a time. A guy who works for a living and knows what it is to work for a living. A guy who has to pay his own bills and not live off the city dime. And know what it's like not to live off the city dime. I'm not saying that every single city employee is, lazy and living off the dime. Although I can pick at least 5 or 6 out just off the top of my head, which I'm sure you can as well. I can probably pick 500 or 600, but
no, you're right.
But based upon the actions in that school committee meeting, okay, just on the behavior. Not only now, here was the contract, okay, because this is what people don't understand. They think, oh, it's just a contract. It was a People Incorporated contract, which gives Mimi Larrabee a job.
For how
She's
much
getting
money?
she's
How
getting
much?
money from People Incorporated from the city of Fall River. And Kevin Agya asked a serious question. Don't you think that could be a conflict of interest? Oh, well, the city council already approved it a year ago. No, they made Mimi Larrabee a special employee. That's all. And the ethics commission is useless unless you're an elected official to file the complaint. Because if you're a citizen who files a complaint, you're ignored. But she's getting paid and she's working in the school buildings. And as Kevin said, how do we know she's not influencing the teachers, the administration? How do we know she's not getting involved where she shouldn't be, where she's outside the scope of her job? And Dr. Brownard responded, well, I haven't heard any complaints. She seems to be doing a good job.
Well, who would complain when she's part of the Coogan cover-up cabal? So
Exactly.
Nobody's going to complain. They're all petrified in the school department to say anything. They're totally petrified. Now the teachers are speaking up because they're aggravated. But everybody in that department, throughout the city, CJ, you're right. We have a lot of very underpaid people working in this city.
That's right.
But they're not administrators or Paul Coogan hires. His reorganizations, his pay raises have been directed at his friends, just like when he went up through the ranks. And that's the problem. The problem is we have a lot of our school teachers. It is an absolute disgrace that our school teachers are making $10,000 less a year than a Somerset school teacher. And that's no aspersion on Somerset school teachers.
No, it's not.
But as someone who's dealt in the labor field for a very, very long time, the way you're supposed to do these things is you're supposed to look at what the wages are for your profession and try to find a place where your people are being paid competitively. In that, firefighters can't compare themselves with engineers or cops, and police have to look at police salaries and police benefits. Teachers have to look at teachers' salaries and teachers' benefits. Firefighters have to look at that. Clerks have to look at that. But the only time that ever works is when Coogan wants to make a reorganization, and he says, okay, I'm going to take this department. I had one supervisor for the last 50 years and now make 4 and pay them all big money. But we don't care that's a waste of money. My friends are getting a big pay raise while there are a lot of unhappy city employees, but they're afraid. This guy is the most vindictive, dictatorial mayor we've ever had. Everybody's afraid to open their mouth. That's why we had so many city employees leave. Why do we have a city administrator that doesn't live in a city? Why do we have a CFO that didn't even work in a public? You can't get help. Nobody wants to come to this city. They work here we had somebody come down from Bridgewater, and she ended up being the representative to the retirement board for a few months. And I remember her saying after the first month here, she says, I'm getting out of this place. She said, this is crazy. She said, the kind of pressure, the kind of things that go on here, I'm not working here. I'm going to look for a job. And she did. And she left. They're running a extortion organization here. And everybody's afraid to open their mouth. I know somebody in the school department was threatened they were going to charge her with kidnapping. Oh, you locked the janitor in a closet. We're going to charge you with kidnapping or something like that. They make up things. And then they got these people that will lie. Or not tell, or just cover up. Look at Pacheco. Pacheco says, I don't know how much we're paying for the remediation. I don't know what it is. I don't care. I don't care. It has to be done. You're right. And it should have been done a year ago or 2 years ago when you found it, and you didn't. And what did you get, Kenny? A pay raise. You didn't get fired. You got a pay raise. And now you're telling the taxpayers of Fall River, I don't care what it costs to undo the screw up that I did and let that mold exacerbate. And I'm going to give it to one of my friends, and they're going to make a lot of money because we don't care because it's got to be done. No, we're not going to go out for an RFP. We're not going to look for bids. We're not going to see what we got to do. We should have done that the first day. You got those pictures in the archives, CJ. So this is the way they're running the city. I'm glad now people can go and look at these school committees. Look at this stuff. The school committee has been largely ignored for years, and I'll plead guilty to that. Yeah, there you go. Spot duct work that even a rat wouldn't live in there. And he gets a pay raise. A rat wouldn't live in those ducts. There's the mold that went unattended. They painted over it. The third one is when they tried to cover it up with special paint, cover-up paint. But I mean, this is you. I mean, I don't know how the people in this city can't be, beside themselves. Besides the teachers not getting, and listen, I know times are tough, but teachers, they deserve to be part of this. Coogan's giving out money to people making jobs we don't need, and we get this kind of treatment. Watch the school committee meetings, please. Watch him be a bully and a dictator and telling these people, you will not get the information you need to do your job properly. You will give me a blank check. Just shut up and go away. Or Nelson just commented, or like he told Nelson, you don't have a house, shut up. You can't talk to me. Really? You don't like what I say? Go jump in a Taunton River. Well, we've got to go and throw him in a Taunton River if he runs again. You got to get rid of this guy. I mean, this is, in all the years I've been involved, I've never seen such a blatant abuse of power. And with that, CJ, back to you.
A child, a 6-year-old child, can be a petulant child. And Paul would still be worse than that.
Yeah.
But this is what's going on. I mean, people see it. People see it. Nobody really, like you said, nobody really pays attention to the school committee. Well, I want to bring up something because I heard it last night at the city council meeting. They were transferring funds around. And Chip, I don't know if you heard it or not, but Bridget turned around and said, well, we have to move that money because we have the AFSCME contract coming up soon. The AFSCME contract, which Paul's brother negotiated.
Two brothers.
Okay? Yeah. Well, in the school department, it was two brothers.
Yeah, two brothers.
On the city side, it's only one brother.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the mayor and his brother. On the school side, it was the mayor and his two brothers. Tell me how you get a fair contract doing that.
Well,
tell me how you get a contract beneficial to the people.
No, if you do what you're told, and the other problem I have is to remember, on a November 29th meeting, the CFO, who's saying that they're going to settle the AFSCME contract, said they can't afford the last contracts that the people in the city got.
Right.
So why are we negotiating more pay raises when Coogan is saying that we have to have all these new taxes and fees and bring back bags and curtail this and do that and triple your car excise tax and all these things because we're fundamentally broke. We can't borrow till 33. And nobody said, wait a minute, maybe we gotta call a little because most of these unions, except for the teachers, got pretty good pay raises in the last round.
Yes, they did.
And like I said, in my time, we had numerous years where we took zeros when the city was in fight. They're not asking for any moratorium on pay raises while the city gets back on its feet. Coogan is going to spend money until you throw him out of office. because that's the environment he came from. The school department, because they get some of their money back from the city and nobody can question them because, like I said, they have little separate things, caveats that say, well, you got to go to the other chapter and they only can have non-binding information. But now the people can complain and they can put people on a school committee and make sure that we get people that are going to look. But now it's just transfer the money. Coogan wants blank checks for everything he does, and he's going to keep those everybody happy by paying them at the expense of the taxpayers. And I agree that people should get paid wages, but there comes a time, like we all have to tighten our belts. We know that. This is the time. I'm on a fixed income. My car insurance went up $600, and I didn't get into any accidents. I didn't get into anything. And I'm going to go shopping around today after the show to see if I can get something because this is crazy. I mean, I haven't had an accident. It was my fault in my life. Ever. I'm at the top classification for drivers. And my insurance is costing me a boatload of money, and it just went up $600. Didn't get any accidents, nothing. 51% nationwide. I called my agent. She goes, well, if you pay it in full, you can get an 11% discount. I said, I get $360 a year if I get a COLA. That covers barely half of my increase in my auto insurance. Now I got to pay my 23% increase on my water bill. Then I got to pay my property taxes, which are going through the roof. I can't pay these things in full now. I have to budget. But why doesn't the city ever have to? We all have to budget. I have things to do in my home. I have to keep this home up. I can't just say, okay, they raise my house insurance goes up every year. Everybody's does. I'm paying mega money to insure this house. We have to live on a budget. But Carl Coogan doesn't have to live on a budget. There's a moral to this story. Don't ever get a political tick who never earned a job, got a job because he knew somebody in the school department, never taught in a classroom, walked around with it, then became a vice principal, and walked around high-fiving kids with his hands in his pocket, being their friend, not the vice principal, and never had to worry about a pay raise because they just get them. Nobody ever says a word. And then you put him in charge and he brings that attitude over to the city side. Now it's infected the city side. We give everybody what they want if they vote for us. If they don't vote for us, well, you stay low paid.
That's how you buy a vote.
The teachers were waiting their turn, and when it got to be their turn, he said, yeah, too bad. But like I said, now's the time to get up and fight. The teachers union has to file that prohibited practice. Colin and Kevin have to do something with the state legally to complain because they're not being allowed to execute their fiduciary obligations correctly. They're being prohibited from doing that. And whether it's under Chapter 71 or 150E or both, because there are allusions to both, but it's under their fiduciary responsibility. They have to begin to fight. They can't continue to just complain because the city is not circling a drain. It's already down the drain.
That's it.
We just haven't, the city is dead. But it's like Joe Biden. They just haven't really admitted it yet. What they're doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul, looking for ways to raise more money, to keep it on a resuscitator till he's gone. And then when he's gone, whoever takes this city over, we will be looking when they actually do the numbers, we will be in receivership. And I said it here first. Back to you, CJ.
Well, Nelson says it there. Major lawsuits coming too. Don't forget that. We know those are coming.
Oh yeah, that Anthony Harding case, that's going to be a
Oh yeah,
bombshell.
that's gonna be a horror show. That's gonna be a horror show. When his brother, who's the attorney, says that the city was burying information, the district attorney was burying information. I mean, when the people don't trust their government, and the government is not providing the people what they need and what they desire, it is time for the people to change their government. And you change your government at the ballot box. We're not talking about a revolutionary war. We're talking about a change at the ballot box.
A peaceful transition.
Yeah.
At the ballot box. That's exactly what we need. But it's nice. Nelson just commented on that, but there's a lawsuit on Joe Feidelberg's old house too.
Yeah, yes, there is another one
about their they got an issue there. Now, isn't it ironic that Nelson brought forth in front of that council a whole bunch of things about some really, really peculiar assessments on the property values for certain rich people in this city? But
That's
now
right.
you get some people from out of state who are running an Airbnb, and now all of a sudden they're having problems with how much they're being charged. So again, the Paul Coogan administration picks and chooses who gets the benefits and screws everybody else. But please, avail yourself of a rerun of that school committee meeting. Watch that disgraceful and shameful performance of a dictator telling you that he's out. He's out of the closet. He's no longer he's no longer Mr. Hyde. He's Dr. Jekyll, or vice versa, or whatever. But he's no longer he's not playing the two characters. So he is Dr. Jekyll. And
that whole thing about him being a wonderful vice principal, yeah, to his friends' students, okay, his student friends, he was a wonderful vice principal because he let them get away with murder, okay, but other students, he actually turned around and said, "Why don't you just leave? Because you're not graduating."
And didn't he make some completely inappropriate statement to somebody that was gay in the school?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Told him to butch it up.
He's showing his true colors.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, I've never seen any mayor basically say, "Give me a blank check." They might want a blank check. They might figure out a way how to fudge more money in, but I've never seen anybody with the audacity of this guy. I mean, he's locked this city down so much. He's got everybody afraid to move because of fear of losing their job or being persecuted when they go to work. Well, I don't hear any complaints. No kidding. You don't hear any complaints. Because if you complain, you're on a hit list. And if there's something happens, what do? Get back into the Anthony Harding case.
Right.
The DA could go down. They're asking for the feds to come in. The DA suppressed stuff. Fall River Police Department's going to be involved in this lawsuit. Paul Coogan might be involved in this lawsuit because you're not going to tell me he didn't make a call. We've already got a lawsuit from one police officer saying he called up.
That's right. And we got it on tape.
And he was amazed that they taped them calling the police department. Gee, I don't know why you'd have, but I mean, these people stick their nose in it. But this Harding case, it will probably be a federal case, and we're not talking about chump change here. I know that the police officer in Florida wanted to settle for $150. He'll probably get more when he goes to court. But this Anthony Harding case is going to cost millions.
Yeah.
This is going to cost millions to the taxpayer, not to Paul, not to, it's going to be put on the backs of the city of Fall River. It's going to be turned over. And that meeting, I mean, Paul finally came out from behind the curtain. When they pulled the curtain back on a Wizard of Oz, they found out he wasn't the grand and wonderful wizard. And now Paul pulled the curtain on himself at that meeting and showed he was not the grand, wonderful wizard of Durfee.
Right. This could very well be one of the biggest scandals to hit our police department. Hey, there's a scandal everywhere in Fall River at this point. And I'll tell you now, the people in Fall River that still support this mayor are blind, stupid, or being paid off.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above. That's true. But it is, it's just a little ridiculous. I mean, when you start thinking about this, I'll give you another good indicator of how bad we're doing in the city. They needed to transfer money from the stabilization fund to an account. And when Bridget was asked why they transferred that money from the stabilization account, except another line item in that department, she said, because we have contracts coming up.
It's illegal to run the contracts, fund them on stabilization funds.
I agree.
It's supposed to have revenue sources. That contract on the ASME side of this school it's not complicated by the fact that the net school spending issues gives them a little bit. It still gets back to they have a fiduciary responsibility to see the numbers, but they don't have the ultimate authority that they do on the non-school committee. They're covered by 150E. 150E clearly states it has to be funded, not by one-time money, stabilization fund money, investments down the road. Investments down the road. So but look, see, this is the thing. Where are the unions? Unions aren't going to fight a pay raise for themselves. They give them pay raise. You know what the union's going to say? Hey, you gave us the money. The council accepted it without doing their due diligence, and let them say that we're going to do this out of the stabilization funds, and we're going to do this with some investments down the road that we have no idea how much we're going to get as a return. So now when that time comes, until that time comes, we're going to keep getting our pay. And if you have to lay people off, well, so be it. Just threaten an override or you're going to lay us off. That's it. They don't care because, look, they're going to take the money. You can't blame them.
No, I mean,
you can't blame them.
I'd take it.
Take the money. You want to give me the money? You want to say you can pay for it? It's not my job. Well, it was my job when we went to arbitration because I had to actually show that the city had the ability to pay the demands we were making at the JLMC. But in normal contract negotiations, it's not the union's problem. We cost out all the items, but then we say, this is what's going to cost. And when they give us that money, that is a de facto admission that they have funding for that contract. And if they don't, that's on them and the city council that's supposed to look at the numbers.
Well, that's it. But it's really interesting that we've got to turn to stabilization money to meet current expenses. Okay, everyone was declaring Bridget the Oracle at Delphi. She knew everything about finance. Look at how she invested this money. She got some interest from the opera funds. This is what's doing so well. We're doing as well as other cities and towns are doing. But then she goes to the retirement board saying, we can't afford the contracts we have. And when you consider the fact that the previous contracts over the past year and a half have gone up between 12 and 16%, not including initial adjustments to the pays, like you did to EMS, not including changing their classification, like you did to EMS, classifying them as a group 4. We won't talk about that. How dare we talk about that? Who do
Well,
we think we are?
well, actually, people who know what that's all about. You know, most of the contracts, and for our viewers who don't really are not deeply involved in contract negotiations, um, all these things are ways to circumvent a very simple thing. Most of the labor unions in this city, if not all, I would say all, but I'd be, you know, I mean, you never know. Maybe when some really tiny union doesn't really have that, but like the nurses only had a few people in it or something. But every major union in the city has a wage reopener clause, which says if anybody gets more than we do, we can automatically reopen wage negotiations. So in order to give somebody more than you gave somebody else, you have to come up with these other things that technically aren't a pay increase.
Right.
Step increases, reclassifications, and all these other euphemistic terms for hidden pay raises. This is why all this stuff happens. To give people a boatload of money and say, well, you know, we only gave them 5%. Well, no, you didn't. You gave them 18% when you factor all this stuff in. This is the thing, because there are wage reopener clauses, and they're going to run right back in and file that they want to reopen a contract if you give them more. So these are all ways to circumvent the process and give people raises. And you know, I know that because I've been involved in those things, because you do what you do. But like I said, Coogan doesn't care. Even in the days when I was negotiating, we got it most of the time. The city funded it most of the time. But there were times we took, they are closing in very fast. But there were times when we took zeros. Over the nearly 25 years I negotiated, we had quite a few years where we had a 3-year contract. 1 year was a zero. And it was because the city said, look, we can't afford it. And we had to, and being people who actually do numbers, we realized that we were shooting ourselves in the foot by if we said, well, we want to demand 15%. Everybody has to tighten their belt, including them. The reason that they're not where they should be is because of politicians like Paul. Paul ignores the teachers while he gives all the administrators and his friends pay raises, and reorganizes everybody and gives them more money, a different classification, and has 4 people doing a job of 1 now. And they don't care. They don't care. But the people who don't fit are at the bottom. There are a lot of people in the city that are not being paid a competitive wage, and they should be. But the only way you fix that is what CJ continues to say. You got to vote these people out. It's that simple. We need a council and a school committee who understands that this city should be run like our houses are run. We have to live on a budget. We can't spend more money than we got. We can't tell you, I don't care what it costs, like Kenny Pacheco said. It's got to be done. When in our world, if it's got to be done, we got to find the money. Because the roof isn't going to get fixed if we can't find the money. The roofer doesn't care that my roof needs to be fixed. The roofer doesn't care. Yeah, now talk to him, David. But when your roof needs to be fixed, what do you got to do? You may have to skip a meal a day for the next 5 years. You may have to put off other repairs on your house. You may not be able to buy a car when your car's falling apart. You may have to put off a lot of things. But I can tell you one thing, you just can't do it. You just can't write yourself a blank check. You can't bang the gavel and just say, give me the money. Give me the blank check. And then later on, I'll find a way to tax you to get the money. And if you like that way, if you think that's the right way to handle your money in this city, well, vote for Coogan.
That's it. No question about it. No question about it. So, well, we're seeing it all come out now, people, and and Paul, Chip. One thing that you forgot to mention is the fact that your department took a 0%, but the city administrators took 3%.
Yeah.
They get an automatic 3% pay increase. Remember?
Yep.
Unless they send it up into the consumer price index, in which case they're going to get more.
Yeah.
And in those times where you took 0, inflation was high.
That's right.
And the consumer price index was higher.
Yeah. Well, the problem they had was they don't remember, but unfortunately for them, I remember, and I've been here a lot longer than they were. While he was wandering around with his hands in his pocket. Automatic cost of living raises were not in anybody's contract, including administrators in this city at one time.
I know.
Nobody got an automatic pay raise, a COLA. Nobody got an automatic COLA in this city ever at one time. And I can document that fact. And the only reason we found that out was they started doing that. And I happened to pull Sharon Skeels' contract. When we were
I remember that.
I pulled Sharon Skeels' contract and I went, because obviously I don't, even though it's public record, I don't normally look at their contracts because, they're administrators, they negotiate their own contracts. So whatever they get. We can complain about how much they got, but I didn't look at the specifics of their contractors. They're basically managers, and managers have a little different kind of things. But I pulled a contract and I went, what? She's getting an automatic cost of living raise? And I went, automatic? Based on the Northeast Consumer Price Index. I said, really? And then I looked further, and that contract also had that she got an automatic review of her base salary, and she could get up to 5% increase and a 5% bonus if the city felt she was doing a good job. So she was getting an automatic cost of living raise and another 10%, actually a little bit more with the compounder, because they put that additional 5% outstanding performance on the base after it was adjusted for the 5%. And unfortunately for them, I know how to do numbers. And the reality was, then I found it out. Then we started finding out that they were giving it to all the administrators. And now everybody that's got an administrative job up in City Hall gets an automatic pay raise in addition to another pay raise, a salary raise. They fundamentally get a automatic raise. So, look, it's our fault. We don't elect. It's not. Well, we're part of that group, but you and I and our viewers, most of our viewers, are not at fault for this. We're the ones who go in and vote for the other people. So,
that's true.
We got to get the 40,000 deadbeats that don't show up at the polls to the polls.
That's it.
I don't know what it's going to take.
Even if we can get 10% of them at the polls, that will make a change. That will make a change.
Okay. Thank you, David. I'm looking forward to hearing what you got what on that. But we should, and that's the problem. We don't have the money. CJ and I could file 1 million lawsuits and we'd win them. But we don't have the money. We would need everybody in the city to chip in, and that would be it. If we could get the 55,000 voters to give us $20 a piece, of course, 7,000 of those are Coogan's voters, so we'll have to reduce that. Okay, so we'll have to reduce that to 48,000. If we get 48,000 people to give us $20, we will sue everybody. And we will win. We will stop this madness. But that is the problem. The problem lies in one simple fact. They say you can't fight City Hall. And the reason you can't fight them is not because you're right. They're right and you're wrong. Yeah, we did. That was quite the thing. we'll have to cover that on the next show. But the thing, yeah, it was really fascinating. Yeah, we're going to talk about that on the next show, Steve. But the amazing how two guys that are billionaires and know how to make money could explain why we're having a problem with the economy, and it got down to one thing: inflation. Stupid. When you run a country the way Biden does it and spend money you don't have, you wreck the economy. It's amazing when you see two guys that are brilliant freaking guys when it comes to money evaluate a situation in like 30 seconds. That was fascinating. But to get back to City Hall, you can't fight them, even when you're right, because what they do is they drag you out in court, like they did with the Anthony Harding issue and stuff, to the Supreme Court, and then they pay their lawyers with your money, and then you have to pay a lawyer to go to the Supreme Court on a case you should have won at the lowest level. But they just keep appealing. You can't fight City Hall because we don't have the money. That's why collectively we organized CAG, Citizens Alliance for Economy, years ago to try to get people together. But the problem is you need money, and everybody's broke. But hopefully, let's hope people pay attention, and we can start changing the government this November, and then in next November we can revisit 1995 and 2014.
Oh, that's all we can hope for. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And watch out for the dictator, because he may blow it up your ass. Have a great day. We'll see you on Friday.